cups are too high. Oh, no. This is too low. You set it this low? Dude, you set that up and you do this every time. Hello and welcome back to the Fox Strength and Performance YouTube channel. I am Taylor Fox, and today we are talking about J-cups and some different types of safeties and application to a couple different racks. So you might be asking, why are we talking about this? Isn't this like one of the most elementary things with strength training and power racks? Yes, but not all power racks are the same. There's different sizes, different dimensions, and the J-cups can vary as well. You can have some different types of J-cups. So for example, these are the flat sandwich J-cups from Rep. They also do make lowered ones where the base of it, where the bar sits, is lowered, so it kind of locks the bar into the J-cup. They make standard ones, which is going to be more like these, which are from Yes for All, that only work on the 2x3 yoke uprights that I have here in the garage. So my preferred J-cup is the flat sandwich J-cup. I think it offers the best balance between having the bar safely in the J-cup on both sides, as well as like prioritizing your unrack. So I don't want the lowered ones where it's like so hard to get the bar out of the rack when you're benching or overhead pressing, like where you have to really lift up and then out because it's such a high ridge, but such a low depth on the other side. I also think these are just super stable. They really haven't like shown any wear and tear in a year. The plating looks really sweet. Like they're super rigid and have a lot of good structure to them. I know they came out with a 2.0 that looked pretty sweet as well. You guys can definitely check those out at repfitness.com. The biggest thing is these, preferably majority of the time, I want like this with this part facing in, so this locks around the upright, and that just gives you stability and safety. If I'm using the Buffalo bar, the cups can kind of like fold in a little bit just to fit the shape of the bar, but you're not going to get like twisting out. Most of the time you don't want that ever. Like there's really no purpose to that, except if I'm using the football bar, at least from Titan Fitness, but I would assume it's going to be a problem with other football bars. As the bar folds back, rolls back, it gets pinned between these, and that really creates a safety issue because then it's hard to get the bar racked, it's hard to get the bar unracked. So what you want to do in that situation is just take it and flip it so that this is on the outside now and it flips out, and that just creates space on the inside of the rack for that particular bar to sit. So we have two 11 gauge steel uprights here, one being 2x3 and one being 3x3. So I got this yoke during the pandemic. It was really my first like adult purchase for a home gym. I don't really count my bench that I had in the back of my parents' yard, or like we kept in the basement as well, and I would train with that. But when like I actually grew up and got a job, and bought something, this was like my first rack. So I bought this from Titan Fitness, and I got there super quick so that I could train while everything was shut down. And then I looked for J-cups that would be able to match up with this. So this is from Yes for All. They have some solid equipment, and I bought a couple things from them. This is Yes for All Med Ball, so they have some good deals. This has lasted for 4 years. It's taken a ton of beating. Besides a little wear and tear, like the padding and the screws are coming loose, the padding's holding up well. Like this is still very usable, and we do use it here in the garage. So this is a big factor for us. I would say the flat sandwich J-cups are much more high-end, and obviously you can't then use these in this rack because there's a different hole size, spacing, dimensions. It is the same steel, but they don't match up well. So it's just two different pieces of equipment that we can use, and it gives us some versatility, and I've really enjoyed using both. We're happy to have the higher end product now. I remember interning at University of Penn. They had the Sorinex racks where the safeties were similar to the Elite FTS, like the white power cages that were super nice and a lot of universities and bigger gyms were buying. And you have to kind of like lock it in one side and make sure you get the hole directly across from it on the other side and lock it in. If it doesn't, it kind of looks crooked. And when you get it right, it locks in really smooth. And it was like, no, like guys, you have to do it like this. And Jim Steele was like, hey, like, let them figure it out. They need to be able to figure it out. And, you know, it's just like a good lesson to be able to learn. So what we can actually start to get into here with this rack specifically is the relationship between the J-cups, the safeties, and the cable trolleys. So I'm going to pull this out. Now we're going to pull this down. When you bring this down, the cable runs in the front, so that eliminates the hole spacing in the front of the rack. So squatting, benching, overhead pressing off of the front of the rack, wherever the cable is running, is eliminated. Now you can still put this through the side and be able to use the rack from the side, as long as like you can keep the plates and everything clear of the cable. And we're going to talk about that a little bit with the safeties as well. These are the spotter arms that we got from Rep. They are super high quality. Now, these work super well with the cables. So all you do is put them through like this, and you can do this on either side, and then it just spins down and locks on the bottom and the top. Now, whatever position the cables are in, you can't put it on the front with the front trolley all the way down. Still, that's going to be the same as the J-cups. I found that the spotter arm manipulates around the cable really well. They like really thought out the measurements and spacing for this with the Aries system and the trolleys, and like figuring out how it needs to lock into the rack while also having cables running horizontally and vertically over the rack. So I feel like that was a big plus. That has really been a nice addition. And like these are very high quality. We squat off of these, we press off of these, and they were out of stock when we first ordered the rack, which is disappointing, but we finally got them. And we have so much weight between the cable stack and the weight storage on the back, it really keeps the rack in place. So we're not worried about it flipping with the spotter arms on the front with a lot of weight on the front. This it was another big consideration for us because we have tension rods running across the garage. So that's to make sure our roof doesn't collapse on us. I guess the architects built the garage a little too high for the width of it. We don't have a super stable structure given the dimensions, so we need those tension rods to pull the sides of the garage in and stabilize the beams through the middle of the garage where we have this loft up here, which really screws with my pressing. Bar loaded like normally with standard plates pushed all the way to the end of the sleeve. It will hit these rods when I press out of the front of the rack. So a lot of times I will put a wrist wrap, put a collar on the end of each bar, and then put the plates on. And that creates enough spacing to where I press and I lock out. The bar and the plates kind of like go around the tension rods. But another thing we can do is attach these to the side here. So as you can see, cable running in the front, these fit through very well. And we'll put the other one on for show. So this just gives us some flexibility to press off the side here and not have to worry about the tension rods. I'm a little big to fit in there. Squatting is probably a little bit more of an issue for me on this side, but the pressing works well because I can load the plates normally. I press up, there's no tension rod. There's plenty of space overhead here. This is normally where I do my circus dumbbell on the side of the rack. I do have plenty of space. It's safe, guys. It's okay. That just gave us more versatility. We were very excited when we got these finally and were able to put them on and have some additional pressing space out of the rack because we got the plate storage. So the J-cups do not work on here. There's too many plates back here. And also with the cable apparatus, it's just like it becomes a mess. If you have a J-cup on the side of the rack and you're trying to rack a bar, you got floating pulleys, you got plate storage, like I'm pressing 315 over here, trying to like, manipulate the bar and make sure I have enough space. So that just doesn't work out. But when you have the extension of the spotter arm and you're able to get the bar away from the rack, it does create for a nice setup. So you're probably like, oh my God, what's he gonna talk about now? You got a band pegs, and the spotter arms. I told you guys, I got a lot of tips here and considerations. So these are great to set up bands because they have the whole spacing through the sides. It creates a more versatile attachment point than trying to do the bands from the ground. So when you have this set up, you want this part on the top on the outside of the rack, and you want this part on the bottom on the inside of the rack, so that when the band pulls on the band peg, it's just going to turn the spotter arm into the rack. The other way around, it actually causes it to spin off, and one, it's really ineffective, and it's also really unsafe. So we have to set it up like this. So this would be it set up incorrectly, because every time you pull the band tension, it's going to, oh my God. But yeah, it's going to pull like that and just turn the spotter arm. So you definitely want to set up the other way around. That took me a while to figure out. And at first I was like, oh my God, what do I do? Bungee cords, straps, whatever I could to like tie and stabilize the spotter arm to the rack. And then I realized you just had to flip them. And then the other way, when the band pulls, it pulls the spotter arm directly into the rack. This is the last accessory that I'm going to go over. These are the strap safeties. So these are really great because I do a lot of bottoms up work with them, even just like rack pulls, and not getting that like jarring impact from the bar against like a rail safety or the spotter arms, and that will like, because the spotter arms only have one attachment point, that will wear them down over time. These are just really nice, and they're really well built. Now, this like gets to be the tricky thing with the cables, because if the cables are on the outside, what you basically have to do is just pull the cable off and then turn that and pull it out. You can also pull the trolley down so that the cable is running in the front and the side cable is low and out of the way. But, you know, look at this, like, who wants to make sure, like, oh, I gotta pull my trolley down and then I gotta lock this in. Sometimes you're just ready to squat and you're like, I don't have time to adjust my trolleys and make sure all the cables are in the right spot. I just want to lock the safeties in and get to my squats and be done with it. So it's a little bit more of a consideration with the cables there, obviously, which is what we started off the video with. I really like these, and for whatever reason, it seemed like they were a little off. So I called up customer service at Rep, and I was like, couldn't one just be like the same side for both, so it avoids the cable altogether? So you have like one set of straps that they lock in on the inside, no issues, and then the other one alternates. But I feel like for them, it's like, well, that's kind of defeats the point. Having them alternate, it's safer, it stabilizes it on the rack better, and I agree with that. And then you just have to consider where the cables are and work around them, which we do with everything that we put in here. What I noticed with these, doing some pressing and deadlifts off of them, even squats, they're not exactly equal, and it might even be our flooring, but it just seems like you get a little bit of give more on the one side. Not that big a deal. Obviously, Rep is USA based, but they outsource the production of their materials, so sometimes you're going to get that. And we really haven't seen anything that noticeable like Titan Fitness. Sometimes you were seeing like weird welding, like welding that was snapping, inconsistencies in grip with obviously the weight like would differ a lot with a lot of their implements, at least early on. What I've seen for the most part with Rep, everything's been very consistent. That is just something I noticed, and I think it's something you really need to take into account with strap safeties, just because they have like this like give to them. So this would actually be at 20 a good height for me to squat at, probably a little high, but maybe more like a bottoms up like pin squat, just to develop some power, like a quarter of the way up on the squat. But it's interesting to set them this high, and like that's actually around where I'm going to be squatting to. And you know, I usually squat pretty deep, so it takes a lot of playing around with it, figuring out the different elements, figuring out how you need to have things set up. I had these set up lower because I was doing floor press, and that actually worked pretty well to have them set up. They're just under the J cup, and they give enough give to where I can get fully down, but then also if I get in trouble at the bottom, I can dump the bar and still get out. So I like that everything seems to line up pretty well and work well in relationship to one another. This is a great product, and I urge you to check it out if you are in the market for a home gym. You need J cups, you need safeties, like you're lifting heavy weight in your garage, and you want to be safe and make sure that you like prioritize your health before you just leave it up to fate and go down with a heavy squat or dump a bar. I actually bent a bar in here because I didn't put the safeties on, and I could have had the safeties super low. It wouldn't have mattered. It would have caught the bar, but instead it fell down the bench. It hit a narrow surface and it bent the middle of the bar, and we still use that bar, but it was like a very upsetting moment for me because I really value our equipment and our setup in the garage. Check this stuff out. Check out Titan. Check out Yes for All. Start small. Like, get something that you can train with consistently and really continue to push your limits. And then, you find out that you have a lot of passion for training at home. You have a lot of passion for having a setup in your garage. And then just try to continue building it and get more items and get more elements that you can use and really just continue to develop your space. Until next time, keep working hard and hold strong. But hey, Jesus, spot me.